So we just recently got some more fight announcements for UFC 322. And by the way, what an outstanding card this is shaping out to be. I mean, obviously the main event is amazing between Islam Makhachev and JDM, but also in the co-main event, we have Valentina versus Wei Li. And then we also have Carlos Prates versus Leon Edwards, which is an absolute banger. And then now we got some of these fights announced. Kopylov versus Robocop. That is an absolute banger. And then the one that really is the elephant in the room here that everyone is kind of talking about, and that is Bo Nickal. He is back, and he will be taking on Rodolfo Vieira. And a lot of people are like, woo! Thank you, UFC. We're going to get Bo Nickal back in the win column here. We're going to get him back on track. And I just got to say, not so fast, man. Not so fast. And then we got Baisangur Susurkaev, who is a guy that is building a ton of momentum right now in the middleweight division. Khamzat Chimaev's teammate, got the impressive KO on the Contender Series. And then he turned around and fought 4 days later at UFC 319, got a nice victory. And then we also have Blanchfield versus Cortez, which for this weight class, this is a very important fight for both of these women, because I think that the winner just might find themselves in a title fight sooner rather than later. So we got some things to discuss. We're going to break down all these fights. We've got some other things I want to talk about in this very video, but one of the biggest things in the MMA world right now has got to be this right here. That is that the GOAT, Shamil Gaziev, he's back, dog. Shamil is back, and he is going to be taking on Sergey Spivac. And all jokes to the side, man, for real, I am super excited for this matchup because Shamil Gaziev, I mean, he's got some hype in this division, man. Like, I know we joke around about Shamil Gaziev. He's routed off some nice victories recently, right? Coming off of that nasty KO over Thomas Peterson, and he's been out for a little while. We get to see him back against the toughest stylistic matchup I think that we've seen him face. I know that the Rosenstrike fight's out there, and, you know, he wasn't able to get it done there, but I think that this is a very interesting matchup for him up against a top 10 guy in Sergey Spivac. So the title run, it is in motion for Shamil Gaziev, man. Look out. Like I said, Tom Aspinall, his worst nightmare is climbing up to the top of the rankings faster than some might think. Next, let's talk about Bo Nickal versus Rodolfo Vieira. Not a layup. This isn't a layup, right? I know a lot of people out there, they're high on Bo Nickal. They're hoping to see him get back in the win column, and I hope that we could see Bo Nickal go out here and get a win, because as much shit as Bo Nickal has talked, he deserved a humbling. We all get that, but the bottom line is he does bring some attention to this division in terms of Bo Nickal, right? The middleweight division's on absolute fire right now, but he's one of those prospects that people like him, people hate him. So you know when Bo Nickal fights, people are going to be tuning in to either root for him or to see him lose. So in that sense, he's not a massive draw, but we understand that people do want to see Bo Nickal fight for those reasons. And so he's someone that everyone's kind of had their eye on in this weight class, right? He goes out there, gets finished by Rainier de Ritter, and everyone has just been shitting on him since the RDR loss. And now RDR's went out and beat Whitaker. He's going to be fighting Brendan Allen, and he's knocking on the door for fighting for the middleweight title. This is a big step back in competition here for Bo Nickal. However, Rodolfo Vieira, this is not some scrub, dude. This is not some sort of layup, and I know that Rodolfo's been around for a while. He hasn't fought really the who's who in this weight class, but he's got some kind of good wins, right? Especially his last win, it was against Tresean Gore, and you can say, oh, Tresean Gore is not even that good, shouldn't even be in the UFC, whatever you want to say. But is Tresean Gore not probably a better striker than Bo Nickal? And Rodolfo Vieira was outstriking Tresean Gore on the feet. I mean, Vieira, in terms of being a jiu-jitsu guy, he has really rounded out his game as an MMA fighter, man. His takedowns aren't bad. Now, he's not going to be taking down Bo Nickal, I don't believe. But in terms of the jiu-jitsu, he's got it. And in terms of striking, he's probably a better striker than Bo Nickal. He is. Let's be honest. He doesn't have the power of Bo Nickal. That's the difference. And Nickal's way more athletic. But let's be real here. Rodolfo Vieira, he's got a good jab. He's got good straight punches that he throws down the middle. But again, he doesn't have a ton of sting. But this isn't some sort of layup here. Bo Nickal was afraid to entertain the grappling with Paul Craig, which I thought was a mistake, right? But clearly, they were worried about something. And then they're like, oh, we want to go in there and we want to strike. And we basically want to get minutes in on the feet, which I'm not buying into all that. I'm just not. At first, I was like, maybe. And then he goes in there against RDR and gets smoked. But again, we're seeing how good RDR is. Bo Nickal was overhyped. And listen, the bottom line is this is not a layup, man. This isn't a layup because is Bo Nickal going to go out there and just bulldoze over Rodolfo Vieira with the grappling? I mean, he didn't even want to entertain it with Paul Craig. He didn't. And on the feet, Bo Nickal's got more power. He's more athletic. But Rodolfo Vieira is probably the better technical striker here, right? And he fights behind a good jab. Even when he lost to Arlovsky, we saw that Rodolfo was very much in that fight. And is Arlovsky not maybe a better striker than Bo Nickal? Throws some good leg kicks, right? So I'm worried for Bo Nickal in a sense here because this isn't some layup, man. Now, maybe Bo Nickal goes out there and, because he was supposed to be, what was he doing? Something wrestling related and competing there. And it felt like, people were like, are we even going to see this guy in MMA again? Now he's got a big opportunity in front of him, man. And Madison Square Garden, big spotlight. How does he bounce back after getting absolutely humiliated by Rainier de Ridder? We're going to find out a lot about Bo Nickal, man, because he's not a guy in MMA that had faced any adversity prior to the RDR loss. And he's always been a dominant wrestler. So now that you are the nail, how can you get back to your roots? How can you get back to being the guy that is going out there and you're being the hammer and you're not the nail? I expect him to come out here and look to win by any means necessary. I expect him to look to grapple with Rodolfo Vieira. I do. Because I think that's kind of where they went wrong in the Paul Craig fight. Can't get away from who you are, man. You can't get away from who you are. You can't. So I expect Bo Nickal to look to grapple, mix things up, land some shots on the feet, and I do think he could get the better of the striking exchanges because he does have the power. But does he have the technique? Not really. That's a big gap in the game of Bo Nickal, man. If you're asking me who's a better striker, it's Vieira. He's a better technical striker. He just doesn't have the power to scare you. And I feel like that may hurt Vieira in this fight. But I think it's a competitive fight, man. I think it's a close fight. I think it's competitive given where Bo Nickal is at in terms of his MMA skill set. This is a very manageable fight for him, but at the same time, you cannot sleep on a guy like Rodolfo Vieira. But early lean, I am going to say Bo Nickal gets a victory here, but I'll say by decision. I don't know if he's able to knock out Vieira. We've seen that he's really durable. He could get hit with some big shots, right? We've seen that. I think it was the Chris Curtis fight? He showed he's durable. We've seen his striking improve. He's got excellent jiu-jitsu. So when it comes to the ground game, I just don't know how excited Bo Nickal is going to be to get to those positions. Maybe he does. Tries to kind of come out here and show us, Bo Nickal's not going to be afraid to grapple with people. I don't know. I don't really know what to expect for Bo Nickal in this fight, but I got some questions after what happened in the RDR fight. This isn't a layup, man. People are out here parading already like, woo, Bo Nickal's back in the win column. Not so fast. That's all I'm saying. Not so fast. It's not the hardest fight, but this isn't some sort of dead body here that they're putting in front of Bo Nickal to get a free win. Vieira is very capable here. And could you imagine if Vieira goes out here and gets his victory? Is it crazy to say that Bo Nickal's MMA career might be on the line in this fight? Now, I'm not saying that he would stop competing in MMA, but as hyped up as he was to lose to RDR, I don't want to say excuse, but the narrative that people are running with now is, oh, well, he just lost to one of the top guys in the weight class, which that is proven to be true at this point. But if you go out there and lose to Rodolfo Vieira, a well-rounded guy who hasn't even sniffed basically the rankings in the organization, especially not towards the top of them, that would be a horrific look for Bo Nickal, man. Would it not? And I think he'll still compete in MMA. I'm not saying it would be the end of his career, but losing to RDR and then now to Vieira, if that were to happen, wow, that would be catastrophic for the mixed martial arts career for Bo Nickal. So again, I thought that the first time around, I was like, look, RDR is going to run through Bo Nickal, and then I bought into the hype. I was listening to all the analysts, Bo Nickal, and that's why I learned don't even listen to the analysts at this point. The guys that are on TV, ESPN, talking about fights, because us YouTubers get more predictions probably right than they do, by far. So don't fall into the hype of Bo Nickal. Again, he's a good wrestler. He does actually have some pretty good submissions. He's shown that in his career. He's got decent power, but there are clearly some gaps in this guy's skill set. RDR, in hindsight, way too much too soon. But that is going to be proven in this fight, given how he approaches Rodolfo Vieira and how easy Bo Nickal may be able to make this look. I think it's a tough fight, and I think Bo Nickal wins by decision. But this isn't some sort of layup like a lot of people, I think, seem to think it might be. Next, we got Roman Kopylov versus Robocop Rodriguez. I love this fight, man. I love this fight, and I was incredibly disappointed in Roman in his last fight against Paulo Costa, right? Because I kind of counted out Costa, right? I didn't say like, oh, this is, the end of Costa, and this isn't, whatever. It was an interesting fight on the feet. It just felt like all things were going to be favoring Roman Kopylov, given we saw Costa fight a southpaw in Luke Rockhold, a guy that really looked like he didn't even want to be in there, was basically gasping for air, laying on his knees like, please, man, and looked like he just didn't even want to be in there. And Paulo Costa was getting into a back-and-forth war with him. So what happens when you got a guy that's kind of really hitting his stride as a pro, that's got some nice wins, fast kicks on the feet, decent hand speed? We saw him finish Chris Curtis. So it felt like that was a pretty good matchup for Roman Kopylov, and Costa went out there and completely dominated him. He dominated him. Kopylov looked like he was a deer in headlights, and Costa was absolutely stunning on him, chewing up the legs, mixing in the kicks to the body, and kept landing that counter right hand over and over and over again. Kopylov has no defense. That's the reality. If you could get to him, he's got no defense. Very little, at least. Right, in Robocop, he's not as technical as a guy like Paulo Costa, but what I can tell you, he's got way more power than Costa in his hands. Or Costa's got the kicks. He's faster, more nimble. We've seen that. But Robocop is devastating, man. We just saw what he was able to do to Jack Hermansson. And before that, Jared Cannonier, he had to survive a hell of a storm to just make it through those early rounds with Robocop, to where Robocop fatigued. It was a 5-round, Apex main event, and then Cannonier put it on him and was able to get him out of there. But early on, you are going to get hit by Gregory Rodriguez. And if Roman gets hit clean by Gregory's hands, I think it's going to be a problem. And Kopylov, he likes to stand at the edge of range, but he doesn't really necessarily make you pay for getting close. We saw Curtis even having success on the inside against him. What's going to happen when a big, strong guy like Gregory can get in your face? And by the way, we don't always see it all the time, but we saw it in the Duncan fight. Robocop can grapple. Who's to say he doesn't threaten that to try to get in the head of Kopylov, because we see Roman slow down, right? So I was very disappointed in Roman's performance against Costa. Again, that was Costa looked great, but also, is it the fact that Roman maybe just didn't show up, seemed like a deer in headlights, or is Roman Kopylov kind of overrated? I think that's what we're going to find out in this fight, man, because I do think Costa's made some good improvements. He fought a very, very good fight, and that was a vintage, really, really good version of Paulo Costa. Kopylov just didn't look good in that fight. So like I said, looked like a deer in headlights. Costa fought well. This is a big bounce-back opportunity for Roman Kopylov, and I got to be honest, I think Robocop knocks him out. I really do. I think that, listen, when you're that hittable and you get hit by a big, powerful guy like Robocop, you just know in a Gregory fight you're probably going to face some early adversity. Can Roman deal with it? That's the question. I'm not so sure he can, right? Sure, he can rip the kicks from the outside, rip them to the body, right? The only negative to Robocop is his defense does let him down, and he does fade as the fight plays out. And who does fade as well as the fight plays out? Roman. Interesting fight here. More technical guy, Kopylov, the power, the brute force, the strength, the grappling threat. That is all on the side of Robocop. I think Robocop turns this into a barn burner and finds a knockout, I'll say, in the second round against Roman Kopylov. Big bounce back opportunity for Roman. And again, if Robo wins, he finds himself probably inside the rankings in the middleweight division. Big opportunity here for Robocop after coming off of a great KO victory over Hermansson before getting finished there by Jared Cannonier. Big opportunity for both guys, man. It's going to be a banger. Next, we got Baisangur Susurkaev versus, I believe his first name is Eric McConico. He's coming off of what I thought was a kind of a controversial decision against Cody Brundage, because that was a really close fight, man. I could have seen how that could have went to Cody Brundage. I'll have to go back in when I, watch some tape to prepare and to break this one down in full. But I thought that Brundage won the fight. He landed the more damaging shots, right? McConico was kind of landing some shots, landing some body kicks, landing some decent shots. But the bottom line is Susurkaev is a different kind of beast here. I expect Baisangur to completely dominate Eric McConico and get him out of there in the first 2 rounds. Listen, on the feet, Susurkaev is very, very good, man. And there were a lot of factors coming into his UFC debut, right? Not only was it on 4 days' notice, but he had to cut weight again, go through the whole thing. You're riding all this hype. They got him at the UFC 319 press conference, which, by the way, I was there, and people were going absolutely nuts for this guy. So this guy has a ton of hype behind him. People want to see this guy fight, and they're tuning in. And he is a star in the making, man. He's got good striking on the feet. He's entertaining. He's kind of waving his hands on. He's excited to get in these kinds of scraps. I think his last fight against, what was his name, Nolan or whatever, that guy fought a good fight, man. He actually fought a very, very good fight. And I think that guy beats Eric McConico. So while McConico's pretty skilled and he has shown some things, he's not on Susurkaev's level. I believe Baisangur goes out there, can bang him up on the feet. He's got good striking, good front kicks, good timing with the hands. Right, he does get a little defensively irresponsible, right? And I think that his debut was a learning lesson for him, man. It was a learning lesson. Ton of hype on him. Big moment, featured prelim, I think, right? All eyes were on this guy, man. He was the talk of the UFC kind of coming into this outside of the main event with Chimaev and DDP. There was a lot of hype that week for him. Big moment, a lot of pressure. I think he carried it pretty well, man. Faced some adversity early, then got to the grappling, and we've clearly seen, he has a very good ground game. Excellent submission skills, good wrestling, and on the feet, that's really where he gets his work done. Nasty front kicks, good power, good speed. I think he goes out there and absolutely dusts Eric McConico in this fight and gets a first or second round. I'll say first round. Towards the tail end of the first round, front kicks are going to start to add up. That right hand will find a home. Give me Seuss to go out there and get a first round knockout over Eric McConico. I'm high on this guy, man. He's well-rounded. He's fun. I think he gets a big win over McConico at 322. This was also added to this card, one that kind of flew under the radar. And I know that this isn't like one that everyone's going to be talking about, and I get it. But this is kind of a big deal in terms of GM3 Gerald Meerschaert is coming off of a KO loss to Michal Oleksiejczuk, right? And it just feels like the writing is on the wall that GM3 is about to find his way out of the door of the UFC, because Kyle Daukaus, he's coming off of an incredibly impressive finish over Michel Pereira. He took the fight on short notice, and by the way, shout out to Daukaus, man. This was a guy that got bounced from the UFC, went rattling off several wins, gets the call on short notice to go in there against a super dangerous guy, Michel Pereira, and goes out there and treats him like he is the guy that shouldn't have been in the UFC. I mean, completely dusted Michel Pereira and made him look like an amateur. Very impressive stuff, and to be honest, I think Daukaus completely runs over GM3, man. And I know you can say recency bias, but stylistically, like, Daukaus is way better on the feet. He's got way more power. We all know GM3 is not dangerous on the feet. He's just not, right? GM3's route to victory at this point is getting beaten up, the fight hits the floor, and he's able to pull off some sort of submission. That's how GM3 fights go. That can't happen against Daukaus. Daukaus is a good ground game. He's got good jiu-jitsu of his own. I think he probably knocks out GM3 in this fight, man. And I like GM3. But I think he's going to find himself out of the UFC after this one, right? Because he's getting to that point. He's getting to that point where he's kind of the guy that's being thrown to these guys that the UFC's trying to find out where they are in the division. They gave him to Michal. Now they're giving him to Kyle Daukaus. I don't know, man. I don't like this fight for Gerald at all. On the feet, Daukaus is way better. He's got power. He can hurt you. He's pretty fast. And on the ground, he's good as well. He's got good submissions, good jiu-jitsu of his own. I think Daukaus gets a first-round finish over Gerald Meerschaert. He either knocks him out on the feet, club and sub, something like that. Either way, I'm going first-round finish for Kyle Daukaus. I hate this fight for GM3. And then this, we'll talk a little bit about this, man. I know everybody's super excited for this one, but listen, Blanchfield getting an opportunity. Remember all the chaos with the Macy Barber situation and how crazy that was, and now she finds herself in an opportunity against Tracy Cortez, who's one of the more popular WMMA fighters here in the flyweight division. And look, number 4 versus number 8. Now, we do have Silva kind of waiting in the wing after that incredible performance against Grasso. She's rattled off several wins. I would like to think that depending on kind of how this whole thing plays out with Shevchenko and Zhang Weili, that we are going to probably see Natalia Silva fight for the title very soon. So she has earned a title shot, in my opinion. Her striking, her style, she's super fun to watch. This fight right here just might be where they get matched up against Silva to fight for the title, or could be on deck for a title shot in the near future, because Tracy Cortez has a lot of hype, man. She's got a lot of hype, and I've kind of doubted her a little bit, right? I think she's a good fighter, and I have picked her to win most of her fights, but I have doubted her a little bit because I'm like, does the hype match this skill set? And we're seeing she's pretty good. She's pretty good on the ground, good footwork, good movement, not a ton of power, but she can sting and move, man, and she can make things happen. Now, she's going in there against a good grappler in Erin Blanchfield, who, if she got a win over Macy Barber, she was going to be kind of making her case to get a title shot. Competitive fight here. Early lean. I got to go Erin Blanchfield, though. I think that Tracy Cortez, while she's good, I mean, we saw what happened with Thug Rose. Now, I get it. Thug Rose, it's a different stylistic matchup. It's the footwork. It's the striking. But I feel like Blanchfield is going to have an edge when it comes to the grappling. And I think that with this, I assume, obviously, this is probably a 3-round fight. I mean, I don't know who that really favors, right? Could that favor Cortez sticking and moving, finding a way, to kind of outscore for 15 minutes? Sure. But I feel like Blanchfield's able to take her down and control her and win minutes. Maybe even find a submission, but I'll say Erin Blanchfield gets this one done by decision. Interesting style matchup, kind of looking at it as striker here versus grappler. Cortez with the movement, the footwork, the timing, right? Blanchfield with the ground game. I think Blanchfield might be a little bit too much on the ground for Tracy Cortez. Early lean, I'm going to say Erin Blanchfield gets it done. And then last but not least, got to save the best for last, man. And that is Shamil Gaziev versus Sergey Spivac. Now, like I said before, the title run is in motion for Shamil Gaziev, man. And I know we joke around and all these different kind of things, but if you think about the heavyweight division, if Shamil Gaziev could go out here and get a win over Sergey Spivac, dude, he's going to be getting a top 5 opponent next, right? So all the joking and all the kidding that, kind of goes on in the MMA community, like, it's getting real now, man. It's getting absolutely real. And by the way, Martin Buday, a guy that was on an absolute tear, who it was crazy that the UFC decided to let him go, or I can't remember if his contract ran out. Either way, they decided to go their separate ways. Martin Buday was a guy that, while he wasn't the most entertaining, I believe that he was, 13-1 in the UFC? Or just overall in his career, and his only loss was to Shamil Gaziev, and Gaziev finished him. So that win is actually aged pretty good, right? And then, yeah, we know, okay, so he lost to Jairzinho Rozenstruik, 5-round main event, gassed out, okay. Goes out there, gets Don'Tale Mayes, beats up on him, wins a decision, and then is coming off of his most recent fight back in February of this year, and he starches Thomas Peterson in the very first round. And by the way, Thomas Peterson's not some scrub of a heavyweight. He can grapple, he can strike. That was a big win for Gaziev, man. I mean, that snappy right hand that he threw was absolutely outstanding. This is a big moment here for Shamil Gaziev, man. I believe that this is on the Qatar fight night card. This is a big fight for him. This is an absolutely huge fight for him because Sergey Spivac, we saw him go out there and lose to Cortez Acosta, but that was a close fight, man. That was a close fight, and Cortez Acosta's got some power, good takedown defense. Now, I believe that Shamil is a different style of opponent here for Spivac because Sergey's got a good ground game, good submissions, decent on the feet, doesn't have great defense. So I think Shamil is actually the better striker, and he's got the power, right? I think Shamil Gaziev could hurt Spivac on the feet. I really believe he can. I think he can hurt him on the feet, right? And in terms of the grappling, I mean, this is going to be, 3 rounds? So I don't think we see Shamil fade, right? This isn't a 5-rounder. I think he can put the pressure on Spivac, back him up, bully him around, right? Spivac's not better than Shamil on the ground, I don't think. I think Shamil's the better wrestler. Maybe you could give the edge in terms of the jiu-jitsu submission game. Maybe you could say that goes to Sergey because I want to see a little bit more from Gaziev here. But on the feet, I think Gaziev is way better. While he doesn't always have the greatest of output, he's a sharpshooter, man. I know that sounds kind of funny, but seriously he is. That right hand that he landed on Peterson was nasty, man. It was absolutely nasty. I think he goes out there and gets a stoppage win over Sergey Spivac. I think that, listen, man, Shamil Gaziev is making a statement in this fight. Big opportunity, dude. Huge opportunity for him. And I'm excited. I think the Blob gets a knockout here. I think he knocks out Sergey Spivac, man. And then I think he's going to be in the top 5. Listen, man, it's getting real. He's going to knock out Spivac. Then he's going to go out there and fight a top 5 guy. He's going to get the win. And next thing you know, we're going to be getting Tom Aspinall versus Shamil Gaziev on the White House card. Main event headliner. Tom Aspinall versus Shamil Gaziev. Like, the reality is getting near, man. All the jokes, all the this and the that's, the reality is near. And by the way, all the joking that goes on, Shamil Gaziev is a very game fighter. He is. He's got good wrestling. That 5-rounder was a learning opportunity for him against Rozenstruik, who isn't the most exciting guy, but Rozenstruik's a technical striker, for a heavyweight at least, right? Learning experience. I think Shamil Gaziev goes out there and starches Sergey Spivac, whether he knocks him out in the first round with the right hand or we get into the middle of the second round, third round, he's able to get him down and is able to land some ground and pound. I think Shamil Gaziev gets a stoppage victory in this fight, regardless of the round. I'm going Shamil Gaziev. I'll say first round knockout. I think that right hand finds a home. And the title run, like I said, it is in motion. As I've said many times, Shamil Gaziev is inevitable to win the heavyweight title. I stuttered that line so bad. Let me say it again. Shamil Gaziev is inevitable. He's going to fight for the heavyweight title, and I think he might be the heavyweight champ at some point, man. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. See you next time.